Hello and welcome everyone to PW Only IAS English. In the daily news analysis for 20th of March 2025, we are going to talk about these news articles, guys. First of all, is APAR ID for the students mandatory? Then, Vice President of India criticizes freebies. In the light of this news, we are also going to discuss about MP lads and MLA lads, MP Local Area Development Scheme and MLA Local Area Development Scheme. Then EMRS, Eklavya Model Residential Schools. Unmanned aerial vehicles, what are colloquially called as drones. What are the benefits of using drones and what are the risks associated with it? Rashtriya Gokul Mission. And these are the other news articles that we are going to discuss for the news analysis today. Let's get started. Before we begin with the news analysis, let me tell you about NSAT. Every year, PW Only IAS organizes this scholarship test, admission test. In this year, we have 2.5 crore rupees worth of scholarship pool, which is going to be offered to you, the students, in the form of scholarship. Anybody scoring well above the cutoff will be given the scholarship, and this includes the UPSC Welcome Kit, UPSC Essential Kit, and other exciting rewards. So, this is your moment to grab this offer. The test will be held on 23rd of March in both the online format as well as the offline format. Offline format, the test will be held in Jaipur, Indore, Prayagraj, Patna, Lucknow, and in Delhi we have two centers, Mukherjee Nagar as well as Karol Bagh. So let's get started with the news analysis. VP criticizes freebies, calls for policy on efficient use of government investment. So what happened in Rajya Sabha yesterday? One of the MPs from Rajya Sabha, one of the members of parliament from Rajya Sabha, he wanted the funds under MP Local Area Development Scheme to be increased to rupees 20 crore per annum per year. So an MP as of now is given rupees 5 crore per year. What happens is a member of parliament is elected from the constituency, but because of the federalism, because of separation of powers and these theoretical reasons, MPs were earlier not allowed to spend on the local areas. So people used to go to MPs with their grievances, but MPs would plead helplessness, in the sense that MP would say that I'm not the sanctioning authority, I do not have money, however I can call the district magistrate. So district magistrate says that the state government has not allocated the money for the said program, sir. Even a simple program as installing a hand pump was not possible for the members of parliament. So that is why what happened in 1990s is government envisaged a scheme, MP Local Area Development Scheme, so that MPs which manage the population of around 20 lakh, 15 to 20 lakh per constituency, they can at least take care of the basic grievances of the people, like installation of a street light or maintenance of a public garden. All these things were envisaged under MP Local Area Development Scheme. Now, because of the increase in inflation, because of the increase in the development cost, an MP from Uttar Pradesh in the Rajya Sabha demanded that the funds be increased from rupees 5 crore to rupees 20 crore rupees. Okay, so since the cost of construction has increased over the last 2 decades, since the scheme was envisaged in 1990s, so MP is quite right in saying that 5 crore rupees is just a peanuts when it comes to the developmental works and the cost of development today. Today's development is not as simple as hand pump or street lights. We talk about highways repairing, we talk about sewage treatment, etc. So MP said that a technical cell also needs to be created for estimating the actual cost of the project and the quality inspection of the work done. Okay, so he said that if MP funds could not be increased, if technical cell could not be established for the purpose of evaluation of the work done under MP Local Area Development Scheme, then the scheme rather be disbanded, scheme rather be discontinued. It's better. He said that MLAs in Uttar Pradesh are getting 5 crore rupees for their constituency, and MLAs in Delhi are getting 10 crore rupees each per year. So, what is the relevance of having 5 crore rupees allocated to MP who is relatively a senior functionary who looks after not just a legislative assembly constituency but a constituency which is as large as a district? For districts, 5 crore rupees is very less. So this was the debate that was going on, and Rajya Sabha chairperson, as he known for his eloquent remarks, he intervened and he said that you are talking about a freebie, the culture of distribution of reveries, as our prime minister calls it. Okay, so he says that the vice president rightfully insisted that we need to focus on judicious utilization of capital expenditure, because a country grows because of the capital expenditure, the way it spends the money, the way the money is distributed between the revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. Okay, so first aspect of this news is whether MP lad scheme, which was criticized, which was even challenged in the judiciary, should it be continued or should the funds be increased under MP lad scheme? The second aspect of the news analysis here is of this particular news clipping is that the culture of freebies. On the culture of freebies, Vice President said that, Rajya Sabha Chairperson said that the issue of freebies should be thoroughly debated in the parliament and there is a need for a national policy. So what is happening is, under the garb of freebies, we are thinking of implementing, or we are justifying them in the form of directive principles of state policy, that we are implementing measures for the welfare of the people. But we need to distinguish between the good freebies and the bad freebies. Good freebies can be said to be scheme for poultry farmers, scheme for dairy farmers, and bad freebies are free electricity for the farmers, which is used to fetch groundwater, leading to further depletion of the ecological resources. So we need to distinguish between the good freebies and bad freebies. Rupees 2000 to every citizen, to every resident of the state is good as well as bad. Right, so people might spend it on liquor, purchase of daru, purchase of liquor. So that is how the vice president is rightfully commenting upon distinguishing between the good freebies and bad freebies. Moving further to the next issue about the MP lad scheme, the scheme was criticized that it encroaches upon the domain of the federating units, because MPs, the members of the union parliament, would be intruding into the arena meant for the states. But the Supreme Court said that this is a flimsy argument, this is a weak argument, considering the fact that under Article 222, the states get the grants from the center. And these are unconditional grants, discretionary grants by the center. So they are anyway spending the money they are getting from the central government funds. So why not the funds routed through the MP local area development scheme, another functionary of the union parliament or union level, if he is spending 5 crore rupees, it shouldn't be a concern, a matter of concern for the states. Then this scheme was also criticized. This is the first ground. On the second ground, the scheme was criticized on the grounds that it is a violation of the principle of doctrine of separation of powers, that the union parliamentarians, the legislative functionary, the legislator, that is the MP, should not interfere in the executive, in the realm of the government. So parliamentarians better be bothered with parliamentary work, and the members of executive, ministers, etc., should alone be concerned about implementation aspect. But the Supreme Court said that in this context, the Supreme Court said that the Constitution of India does not envisage the strict separation of powers. So, because it is a parliamentary form of government, the parliamentarians are also accountable to the people. So, if they are carrying out the basic minimum works related to the grievances of the people, there should be no stopping them. So, this was the context of MP lad scheme. Okay, in 2002, NCRWC, National Commission to Review the Working of Constitution, also suggested that the scheme be abolished. Then in 2007, second ARC also suggested that the scheme be abolished, as it is an infringement on the part of the MPs parliament into the domain of the executive. So this was all. Now talking about another interesting aspect, Lok Sabha members can recommend works within their constituencies. Okay, so if I'm a Lok Sabha MP from Patiala constituency, I can recommend works within my own constituency. If I'm an elected Rajya Sabha member, I can recommend works within the state of election. If I'm elected as a Rajya Sabha MP from, let's say, Gujarat, so I can recommend works in Gujarat. But if I'm a nominated member of parliament like Sachin Tendulkar, etc., so I can recommend works anywhere in the country. So these 3 points are equally important when it comes to MP local area development scheme. Moving forward to the other topics of the day. Now the controversy surrounding the APAR ID and data privacy. APAR is a part of national education policy. Basically, it is a single repository. The way it has been envisaged, it aims to be the single repository of all the data concerning the students. But teachers have their own problem. They say that it is a duplication of the Unified District Information System for Education Plus. So UDISE Plus, then now APAR ID. Are we duplicating the data of the students? More so when the data is easily linkable with the private sector applications through the API linkage. So let's discuss this issue in a detailed manner. So what is APAR? APAR means Automated Permanent Academic Accounts Registry. As you can read above, Automated Permanent Academic Accounts Registry. So it is a single point registry of the entire academic record of the students, designed to store and accumulate the students' academic data, facilitate their smooth transition between educational institutions. For example, I do not require migration certificate. I can rely on the APAR ID. I can share the APAR ID with the school or college which I am migrating to, and that college administration will be able to fetch out my details through my APAR ID. So this is the benefit of APAR ID. But the problem, there are certain problems, we are going to discuss that also. Linked to Aadhaar, stored in DigiLocker. Now you can fetch your certificates, whatever 10th standard matriculation certificate, 12th standard certificate through the DigiLocker. Now, this APAR ID also provides the standardized data on mark sheets and institutional affiliations. Whatever institution I am connected to and whatever affiliation the institution has got, CBSE, ICSE, or any other international board, so that will be reflected in the APAR ID. How much has been my attendance? How has been my performance, academic performance as a student? So, this APAR ID helps in rapid verification of academic transcripts. Generation, insofar as the generation is concerned, it is generated through Unified District Information System for Education Plus portal. So this portal was designed by the Department of School Education and Literacy, which falls within the Ministry of Education. Okay, it covers around 15 lakh schools as of date and 98 lakh teachers and 25 crore children. So all the children enrolled are already covered under UDISC plus. Now the teachers, they say that because of the APAR ID, their administrative work has increased. Now they have to duplicate the data which is being uploaded on the UDISC plus portal in the format prescribed for APAR. The format for APAR is different from UDISC format. For example, if a teacher is required to prepare an Excel sheet, the format of APAR and the information that the APAR seeks is same, but the format is different. So that is why the administrative workload of the teachers who are supposed to teach has increased. Now, the government says that it is in line with national education policy, but what is the logic behind duplication of data? Right? And then government says that it is officially, as per the official pronunciation, it is an optional thing. But schools are being prodded, schools are being persuaded, teachers are being put under pressure to get the students registered with the APAR ID, else they will not get their roll number or they will not get their attendance updated, etc. etc. Okay, so Union government has, even though on the official side, reiterated, reconfirmed its optional nature, but on the ground the things are different. Okay, conflicting signals are being given by bodies like CBSE circulars and government FAQ section can be unclear, leading to confusion. So, CBSE has been hinting the schools indirectly that they have to get the students onboarded onto APAR. Well, that should not be a problem, but the problem is, guys, that there is lack of transparency, difficulty obtaining policy documents through RTI. So many people have filed the RTI applications asking for the information under APAR. Okay, like information about APAR. What is APAR about? Government Department of Education has been hiding information. So that means there is some stink there. Then the exact scope and purpose of data collection is unclear. What is the data being collected? What is the scope? And with whom the data would be shared, with the private agencies, etc. It's not clear. APAR collects data beyond educational certificates and grades, raising privacy concerns. Secondly, minors' data is also being collected. The collection of minors' data without a law backing it up, like the same fate as we saw with UIDAI, Aadhaar agency. Okay, so what did they do in the initial phase? They collected the data without any law backing it up, without any statutory authorization. Same thing is happening with APAR. that data is being collected without the parliament passing any law around it. So this is unconstitutional, and that too, this is the children's data. And another concern that has come up is concerns about children's data, potential for tracking children, their behavioral monitoring, and targeted advertising of children, as in this photo you can see, okay, which is prohibited under Section 9, Clause 3 of Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So government is trying to, in a way, advertise the children in the form of APAR ID cards so that other children and their parents could be convinced. Risks of data exposure to third parties. So application program interface of APAR, the portal, anyone can download, anyone computer software developer can download and link it up with the private application, thereby risking the data, the security of the data. Okay, so you can go to apar.nic.in and can link the APIs, download the APIs active program interface from over there, and can devise your own new application. So this application will tell you the details about, for example, if a boy is stalking a girl, he will be able to get to know the details of the girl, where is she living, etc., with the compromised application. Even though APAR ID requires the login ID, password, etc., but APIs can bypass that security process. So this is the concern about the APAR, the way it is being propagated in a rushed manner. Now, moving to this, parents have the option to opt out of generating APAR ID. This is what is being said prima facie, but on ground, the reality is different. Okay, the Software Freedom Law Center provides the opt out templates. Software Freedom Law Center. Okay, but despite its voluntary nature, pressure exists at the local level for APAR registration. For example, if you want to avail of any government subsidy, they will say that you have to register for APAR ID. So Uttar Pradesh has issued warnings about discrepancies between APAR and enrollment data. Discrepancies are also there. So that doesn't mean that having APAR, a new system, does not mean that it is better than UDISC, the already existing system. Why? Because there are discrepancies between the data provided by APAR and the actual enrollment. So for tablet distribution in the schools, for freebies, for subsidies, APAR data is going to be used. But authenticity of data is under question, like it is in the case of UDISC, the erstwhile existing program. Now coming to the next issue, what are the different risks and rewards of using unmanned aerial vehicles? The drones as we call them. Okay, even though there are no casualties because unmanned aerial vehicles do not have any human being inside them. So if any casualty like in the past which would happen around MiG-21 crash or any air accident of the Air Force planes, then that would attract a lot of hue and cry that a pilot has died, his family would be bereaved of the grievance, etc. But now the concern is a recent sighting of Chinese unmanned aerial vehicles near Okinawa demonstrated their perceived threat level differs from that of manned aircraft. This leads to the question on different risks and rewards of using unmanned aerial vehicles. We are talking about using these unmanned aerial vehicles for delivery of Amazon or Flipkart parcels. Tomorrow Zomato might also start them. Okay, now problem is lower capability. Why are UAVs perceived as less of a threat by the nation when it comes to the defense part, when it comes to the security of the country? Generally less capable than fighter jets, even when they are armed with weapons or rockets. Many are unarmed, used for surveillance and reconnaissance. Reconnaissance means doing the recce of an area. Okay, then reduces the perception of direct state power. So direct state power, that is there attached with the Air Force Viman, attached with the Air Force aircraft, that is not there. Perception in the minds of the people is that, oh, it's a normal toy flying above the head. So mission seems less risky without endangering human life. Like as I said, the movies like Rang De Basanti, they have shown how the protests can be done, how the ugly shape the protests can take around the death of a fighter pilot. So that kind of a mission, which is not involving any human life, any threat to human life, is better than the aerial, manned aerial missions. So loss of UAV is generally less costly than losing an air than losing a manned aircraft. Less financial burden when downed. So even when the unmanned aerial vehicle is downed, like Iran, like Afghanistan, Taliban is has been in news for downing the US unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. But burden has been more because they are also a sophisticated technology. Nonetheless, burden is less than downing of an expensive aircraft like Rafale, which is worth hundreds of crores of rupees. Instances of drones being shot down lead to less harsh reactions from the public as well than if a pilot aircraft was shot down. So recent examples, Iran shot down a US surveillance drone over the Strait of Hormuz. US Reaper drone drowned by Russia recently. Risk-taking behavior, the perception of lower threat encourages countries to take risks such as airspace incursion. Now the risk is also there since now the skyline of the country, let's say this is India and this is Pakistan. Okay, Pakistan will be sending the unmanned aerial vehicles for dropping off drug parcels near pardon me, near the Punjab border, Pathankot, Fazilka border. Okay, this is being increasingly resorted to. Since there is no pilot, no threat to life involved, unmanned aerial vehicles, which is of the cost as low as 20 to 25 lakh rupees for a nation, this is very less. Okay, training a pilot involves around 30 to 50 lakh rupees worth of training. And for an Air Force aircraft, that is even more. So now airspace incursions are increasingly happening because of the unmanned aerial vehicles. So that increases the risk. Now, lower risk of retaliation makes unmanned aerial vehicles attractive for missions that would be too risky for manned aircraft. Now, surveillancing or wrecking or reconnaissing the defense enclaves, the aerodromes of the country by sending a naive unmanned aerial vehicle, a drone. So that is why the ministry had come up, the government had approved the unmanned aerial vehicle regulation in a manner that drones up to 40 kilometers will be regulated by Ministry of Home Affairs. Between 40 to 80, it will be defense. It will be Ministry of Civil Aviation. Then above 80, it will be Ministry of Defense. So this is how the regulation has been categorized so that the risk emanating from these drones can be lowered. Okay, any fly of drones near the aerodromes, near the air base stations of Indian Navy, Indian Army, Air Force, that is prohibited strictly. So this is what we have done for internal security insofar as the management of the drones is concerned internally. But what about the external players like China, like Pakistan, the hostile neighborhood that we have? Okay, so they have their these drones have their advantages as well as disadvantages too. Challenges with neighboring countries, as I said, Pakistan uses small unmanned aerial vehicles to transport arms and drugs across the border. India has shot down Pakistani unmanned aerial vehicles and Pakistan has not retaliated. Bangladesh has deployed Turkish Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicle near the Indian border. So, in the light of the recent mayhem going on in Bangladesh after the ousting of Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh is also resorting to it. So, evolving military strategy, what is the way out for India? India needs to develop effective strategies to deal with various types of UAVs. Addressing the threat of larger UAVs like Bayraktar TB2 without escalating tensions is crucial because Bangladesh otherwise has been a friendly neighbor to us. Indian military strategy must adapt to the increasing integration of unmanned aerial vehicles in military operations. So what do we need is we have a dome shield. We have S-400 type of an anti-missile system provided by US by the Russia. What we need of the hour is to have a self-destructive, a self-automated response giving unmanned aerial vehicle destroyer. If the UAV does not have the, for example, if unmanned aerial vehicle or drone coming from outside India does not have the code provided to it by the Indian forces, it should be automatically destroyed before it does the damage in the form of collecting the CC camera based data of India's border, India's the presence of Indian armed forces around the border, around the fences. So that kind of an automated response system is the need of the hour for the countries, including India. That any unmanned aerial vehicle, without having the pre-provided code, like Indian Air Force, fighter jets, they require a code if they are flying within the skies of India, skies under India, above India. But now that kind of a code should be made mandatory for any unmanned aerial vehicle coming within the zone of India. So that means an air fencing, like we have the physical fencing around the borders, air fencing would be required here. Moving further, per capita income claims by the states contradicting high BPL population. Supreme Court said that even as the states are being highly pompous or they are flaunting about the per capita income rising in state like Bihar, state like Odisha, Chhattisgarh, but the ground reality is that there are parallelly many people who are living below the poverty line. So the Supreme Court wondered if the benefits of the distribution schemes like subsidized essential foods, Pradhan Mantri Matritva Vandana Yojana, are they really reaching the poor in the country? That was the only doubt cast by the Supreme Court. Okay, the coverage under the act is 81%. You talk about National Food Security Act, the coverage under the act is around 81.35% as per this news clipping. But there was additional coverage of 11 crore people under Anganwadi scheme and further coverage of another 22 crore people. Yet at the same time, the people living below poverty line is also very high. So how can the two phenomena, two contradictory things continue? How are they continuing? That is the doubt cast by the Supreme Court. Okay, so many states have 70% of their population living below poverty line, yet they are being highly acclaiming about their this achievement in the form that, in the sense that they have been able to they have been able to increase the per capita income and state gross domestic product. So this was a minor news article, small news article. Corruption and mismanagement seems to be there. Now, the Parliamentary Standing Committee asks the government to pursue centralization of Eklavya schools. So, Eklavya's model residential schools created for the tribal people for increasing the gross enrollment ratio of the tribal students, tribal school going children into the schools. That Eklavya model residential school, they are being centralized in the sense that teachers will be hired centrally and National Education Society for tribal students will manage these schools rather than the state level management which was going on till 2020. And in 2021 the circular was issued that per student expenditure on the student who is enrolled in the Eklavya model residential school should match the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya student. So, around 1,66,000 rupees will be spent per student now on the Eklavya model residential school. This aside, in the month of March, on 4th March, under the daily news analysis, we had talked about why the performance, the Hindu newspaper had talked about why the centralization of Eklavya model residential schools is lagging behind. Despite the circular being issued in 2021, 2020 effectively, why Eklavya model residential schools are not being able to provide the better facilities, educational facilities, as was envisaged under the revised guidelines. So the problems are centralized hiring. The government says that hiring should be done in a centralized manner, and Hindi should be the teachers should be fluent in Hindi language. They should have working knowledge of Hindi. Hiring such teachers in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala is becoming very difficult. So this is one of the problems that 10,000 teachers that were hired, okay, they had some teething problems with the centralized process. Hindi competency requirement is not being able to be fulfilled. So that is one problem. That is why the centralization is lagging behind. There is no oversight power. Even though we say that national education, this NESTS would be able to regulate the schools, National Education Society for tribal students will be able to regulate these schools, have an oversight over these schools. But NESTS is itself lacking the staffing. In terms of staffing, 28 people, 100 people working under NESTS. So that is why who's going to regulate the kind of centralization of the schools that is envisaged under the revised guidelines. Government has revised the guidelines of Eklavya model residential schools. Why? Because Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas are doing better in terms of their gross enrollment ratio, in terms of learning outcomes, etc. So government thought that by matching the guidelines of Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas with that of Eklavya model residential schools in terms of per capita expenditure on child, all these things, the Eklavya model residential schools will be able to perform better. But we are facing problems in terms of centralization itself. The NBC's centralization is lagging behind because of staff shortage, And India is a very diverse country. Centralization of such a scheme, that too the scheme which is going to be implemented in the far-flung areas, the tribal areas of the country, which have been untouched by any of the government schemes effectively, it is going to be very difficult. Okay, the objective of the revised guidelines of Eklavya model residential schools was standardize educational policy, ensure equitable access to quality education for tribal children, like the education that is provided to Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya students, modernize operations through standardized programs. The nationwide standardization was envisaged. Now, these are the the rest of the details about it. And the parliamentary standing committee, since the budget approval process is going on, it reprimanded the government with regard to the other programs meant for scheduled tribes. Janman package, Prime Minister Janman package scheme was there to focus on 11 critical interventions for the tribal people through 9 ministries, including the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So the aim of the PM Janman was to provide crucial interventions such as permanent housing, like under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is being provided to the general population, road connectivity, piped water supply, mobile medical units, hostel construction, Anganwadi facilities, and skill development centers. So the aim of PM Janman is to mainstream the tribal society. But the Parliamentary Standing Committee, it scolded the government for poor progress in terms of implementation across 29,000 villages which are habited by particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, scheme saturation, that means scheme has been fully uh, able to cover all the inhabitants of the 4288 villages only, compared to 29,000 that were envisaged. Tribal freedom fighters museums, you see Birsa Munda and other villages and the freedom fighters have been there. Likewise, there have been many tribal freedom fighters. Their museums were supposed to be constructed so as to celebrate their history. But slow progress in setting up the museums also, the Parliamentary Standing Committee has highlighted in its report. Only 3 out of 11 sanctioned museums have been inaugurated. Ministry of Tribal Affairs budget, even though, was increased to around 15,000 crore rupees for 2025-2026, this year's budget. But ministry has been consistently unable to spend its full allocation. So these are the findings of the committee. Okay, reasons are, what are the reasons for inability to spend the money or tardy performance? Single nodal agency is not there. Okay, even though MOTA is there, Ministry of Tribal Affairs is there, but single nodal agency for approval of projects and for managing the projects at the ground level is not there. Non-submission of utilization certificates. So many state governments which have utilized the funds provided by Union Ministry of Tribal Affairs, they have not provided the UCs. UCs are essential for the CAG audit purpose. Utilization certificate. Recommendations of Parliamentary Standing Committee. What are the recommendations? Ministry must strictly implement the measures to resolve these issues. So this was there. Now talking about Rashtriya Gokul Mission. The minister informed that 3,400 crore rupees have been given to Rashtriya Gokul Mission with a total outlay 3,400 crore rupees. What are the new components Rashtriya Gokul Mission that have been added? Scheme is for continuation of the ongoing activities of Rashtriya Gokul Mission, dairy milk production, strengthening the semen stations. To increase the quality of the bovine, we are doing the in vitro fertilization of the quality of the cattle which gives more milk. The breeds that give more milk, they need to be produced, they need to be given birth in more number. So that is the objective. Artificial insemination network, implementation of bull production program, and accelerated breed improvement program using sex sorted semen. Okay, so sex sorting of the semen would be done in a manner that the breed that is improved in quality, that is better in quality in terms of giving milk, that kind of a breed needs to be given more births. So this is, you see, 19 bovine IVF in vitro fertilization labs have been created. Like we do the in vitro fertilization in human beings, same is being resorted to for the cattle. Two national Kamdenu breeding centers, over 8 crore dairy farmers benefited. So this is there. Now these are the answers for the questions to the yesterday's MCQs that were there in the PPT, and the PDF will be uploaded on the channel right away in a short while from now. This was all in the news analysis, guys. It was a pleasure teaching you. Thank you. Let me know if there is any feedback. And since many of you are preparing for the prelims also, and managing your classes also, it becomes difficult. But still, I would suggest continue with the news analysis, with the newspaper reading. That helps you in the long term. Thank you. Have a good day.